Alright everyone, couple big Nintendo stories we need to discuss today, starting with Tears of the Kingdom and a surprise promotional display that has been spotted that could be hinting towards just how big of a mechanic this one particular thing that we've seen before will be for this title, and boy am I hyped for more information on it soon. And the big talking point for today's video has to do with a surprise upgrade to a upcoming Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack game that has been spotted online, and we have to break down what, if anything, this means for future N64 games coming to the service and their overall performance quality on the Nintendo Switch. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, as I mentioned, guys, today we are discussing a couple different stories, and we have to kick it off with a conversation around Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and some very interesting promotional marketing material that was spotted at the Tokyo Live event, which was taking place over the weekend. It may still be ongoing. I'm not sure of the entire schedule of this event. However, there was one interesting, cool thing related to Zelda Tears of the Kingdom that was spotted there. And first off, before we discuss what that is, it is exciting to now know the title of this game. We know it is out May 12th, 2022, and we are going to see more and more promotional marketing material hit around this, probably future trailers. We may not see anything over the winter time until something like the next Nintendo Direct at February. Do they do a Zelda focused Direct around this? It's entirely possible, but at this event, you do see a full promotional section cut out for Tears of the Kingdom, and even a life-size statue of Link that has him featuring his arm that we have seen him previously use in a trailer where it appears that he's maybe reversing time with it, and it very well could be a multi-function arm similar to the Sheikah Slate, how it had different items and abilities tied to it. We don't know the entire history or detail of what this arm and corruption of the arm actually is. At least I haven't gone down the rabbit hole of theories around the origin of this thing and how it will be used in the game, but it does seem like it could be a central mechanic to Tears of the Kingdom, considering that that is what Nintendo chose to focus Link's statue on for this Tokyo Live event. And the other thing I want to know is if Nintendo will ever sell this statue afterwards at a premium price, because imagine having that Link in your room somewhere in your gaming collection. I just think it looks fantastic, and it just quickly reminds me that yes, indeed, May 12th will be here before we know it, and we are going to continue to see new hints, new trailers, and new focus around this highly anticipated sequel to Breath of the Wild. Yes, it will be in the same Hyrule. We do not know what to expect in terms of the new areas and what has changed in the land. Obviously, we know we're going to the skies. This seems to be, in my opinion, what Skyward Sword was probably first aimed to be, because you can go back and watch different developer interviews from Mr. Aonuma himself, essentially stating that he wanted more of a smooth transition from the sky above to the lands beneath, and I think that this is actually the title that they can pull that off from a technological standpoint now. So I am expecting to have a ton of fun with the new mechanics, have Link do that fast dive through the clouds all the way through to the ground beneath. We know elevators or some kind of structure will take us up at certain points back into the sky, and then there's claimed to be underground sections as well. And are we going back to traditional dungeons in this game, and do we hunt down the 7 tiers of the kingdom? Like, that's entirely possible, and that could be what the story is based around. And I'm sure there's a lot of ins and outs that we won't know until the game is actually out, but that prospect is extremely exciting to me, because I personally am replaying Breath of the Wild right now. By the way, I will do a weekend video on that one day in the future where I describe how I still quite honestly believe that that is the best game on the Nintendo Switch so far, even here in 2022. It is a fantastic project through and through. I love the original Breath of the Wild. The one thing about it is that while the Divine Beasts are a really cool structure for that particular installment, I am ready to have the elemental themed dungeons come back in a big way, because that is such a core staple of what makes a Zelda game in my opinion. And while you can say the Divine Beasts were unique in their own way because they are different beasts, they have different mechanics, different puzzles you have to figure out, it still felt like the same overall template for how you complete them. And if I'm talking about an open world world Zelda experience similar to how Breath of the Wild functions, but you mix back one of my favorite things about the franchise, which is the unique themed dungeons, hopefully focused around really cool lore elements in the story. And then also, let's hope that we get some kind of item upgrade in these dungeons, and maybe some of the puzzles are focused around the item that you find in the dungeon. I definitely like that style, and I think if we do open world with that dungeon progression in there, granted, you should be able to complete them in any order by definition if it is an open world game, but I still hope that that kind of plays into the story in this one. And this statue just has me thinking about how big of a deal is this arm for Link, because I think it's fairly safe to assume that it is going to play a heavy role in the game and your progression and the story as a whole. So this particular promotional item just has me reminded that yes, indeed, us Zelda fans are, while we don't have anything to play in 2022 in the franchise, which why we don't have Wind Waker and Twilight Princess is beyond me, but Nintendo chose not to port them, whatever. Those games probably aren't coming until 2024 or after, if they are real and coming at all to the Switch. So go buy yourself a used Wii U if you want to play them in the meantime. But this has me reminded that yes, while we do have to wait this lengthy amount of time to play another Zelda game, Tears of the Kingdom is coming out next year, hopefully in May 12th, like they say, as long as there's no further delays. I think with the hard date though, Nintendo will not delay it. So strap in and get ready for the ride of new promotional items and new trailers to come, and share with me in the comments down below where your hype levels fall for all things Tears of the Kingdom right now. Are you like me and you wish you could purchase this life-size Link statue that was featured at the event? What do you think about the arm mechanic and what it will actually entail? Do you know more about the lore and story behind it that you can share with me in the comments? So please share all your thoughts and feelings on all things Tears of the Kingdom and the ramp up to the game's release in the comments down below. Now, the other story we're talking about today has to do with an interesting upgrade that has been spotted to an upcoming N64 game that we know to be releasing on October 13th on Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack. Yes, we are talking about Pilot Wing 64, which will be the October game, and you can just use logic and assume that Mario Party 1 is going to be the November game and Mario Party 2 will be the December game, since we know those are all slated for 2022 releases. And while I am personally hyped to check out and play Pilot Wings when it does become available on the service, because this is one that I have vague memories of playing at a friend's house, but I never owned myself, so yes, I'm hyped for it. There is also an interesting thing that has been spotted with how the game runs now on NSO in comparison to how it originally ran on the N64, and this spells good news for future upcoming projects like the heavily anticipated GoldenEye that unfortunately I think we will all be waiting until into 2023 to see that game release, primarily due to the fact that that was highlighted as a 2023 game in the Japanese Nintendo Direct, and on our Direct it just said coming soon, but clearly they're going to launch that worldwide at the same date. At least you would expect that to happen. But in terms of the performance quality and what's been spotted here with Pilot Wing 64, let's quickly hop over to Nintendo Life and read through their detailed typed up article together. Pilot Wing 64 for Switch Online appears to be targeting a higher frame rate. Nintendo announced the 1996/97 game Pilot Wing 64 would be making its debut on Switch Online plus expansion pack service a few days ago, and it seems this will be the best version of the game yet. GameXplain has taken a closer look at the footage shown in the trailer, and it appears the gameplay will be targeting 60 FPS. In the original version of the game, it's highlighted how it was only the menus that ran at 60 FPS, while the gameplay was around 30 FPS. This latest release will also feature a higher resolution. Apart from GameXplain's footage, Nintendo's Japanese YouTube channel also shared around 2 minutes and 30 seconds of direct gameplay footage with the NSO version of Pilot Wings in action without that smooth voice. Here it is in action. The only notable side effect GameXplain spotted was the way the timer functions. It's always counted the millisecond a bit odd, but now it's more noticeable with the game running at a higher frame rate. You can check out GameXplain's latest graphics comparison video on its YouTube channel. So this is something that's cool and notable to me personally, and something you can give Nintendo some credit for, because not only are we able to re-experience a lot of these N64 classics, but in certain titles it is truly the best way to experience them and a true upgrade from what you could experience on the N64 console itself, as apparently this game was programmed to be able to run at a 60 FPS frame rate because the menus loaded in that way, but it was most likely a hardware limitation around the N64 itself, and that's why Nintendo made the decision to lock it at a 30 FPS cap. And when it's a smooth flowing game like a racing game or this, where you are targeting to go through various circles that are available and it's smooth flowing motion. That 60 frames per second does truly make a difference. If you don't know how much of a difference it really makes, go boot up Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that I'm sure all of you own, because that game has sold like wild cakes, hot cakes, whatever the actual saying is, but you know what I mean. Boot up that game that I'm sure you have in your collection, because everybody does. Play it on single player and go through a Grand Prix or a few tracks at least, and look at the refresh rate and the smoothness of your racing when playing in single player. Then boot it up in multiplayer mode, split screen, and do the same thing. You will see a day and night difference in just how smooth the refresh rate is and how much more enjoyable the gameplay experience is when you get that. So I think it is a huge win to get Pilot Wings at 60 FPS. And then when you talk about games like the upcoming heavily anticipated GoldenEye, we don't know all of the tech specs and details of how this game will look and run, but this was a revolutionary title for shooters, for 3D games, for multiplayer games in general. It truly changed the landscape, and this is one that I am looking forward to when it drops, to go through in completion 100% the campaign all the way through. I personally have a ton of love and nostalgia for that portion of the game, then hop in online play with the same friends that I grew up playing the game with on the Nintendo Switch. Like, this is going to be a fantastic walk down memory lane, and I'm hopeful that maybe 60 FPS would be something that is possible in that version of GoldenEye as well. And if it's not, it may be available on the Xbox version. But then of course the drawback to that is that there is no online multiplayer on that version. So I'm a little bit frustrated that there's not just a definitive across the board perfect version of GoldenEye. I think in a perfect world, they could have just made it a standalone release, sold it physically for like 20 or 30 bucks and gotten their money that way, and let us do it with modern widescreen controls and not only have it as the emulated N64 NSO availability on the Switch. And then they could have just given Microsoft the ability to do online play, which, whether or not that was a Nintendo agreement or if it's something because it's loaded into Rare Replay, that's all up for debate and speculation. I don't know that anybody knows the entire true history behind why that decision was made, but I do think that while I've personally had my gripes over the N64 and Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack service and the quality of the emulation, to see that the emulator they are using is capable of things like this is just good news at the end of the day. Not to mention the fact that these games do truly look incredible and they pop, and they didn't make the same mistake that they made in the Wii U era with N64 emulation, which, if you don't remember, there was a dark screen filtered over the entire library of games and everything just looked dark. It took away the color, the pop, not to mention the fact that the higher resolution that they run these games at really has these titles looking better than ever. And while it would be cool to have the option to individually purchase these if you wanted to just add them to your library, I still would take this format that we are getting today over not having access to play these games on the Switch, since it's so convenient that you can play in portable handheld mode or on the dock and hooked up to a TV. So I personally am a fan of game preservation, of having the best version of classic N64 titles available for us today, and I will just be curious to see if any other future planned N64 games get this same 30 to 60 FPS upgrade when they are ultimately released on the expansion pack service. But I want to hear from you guys at this point in the video on both the different stories we talked about today. How are you feeling about all things Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, the mechanics that will be featured in that game, and also just your overall hype and anticipation level for what it will entail when it drops on May 12th? And definitely share with me how you're feeling about NSO today, the upgrade from 30 to 60 FPS or Pilot Wings. Is that notable to you? Are you going to be more excited to check it out now that you know that? Or is FPS really not a priority to you at all, even in smooth flowing games where I think you can argue that it is more noticeable? And bonus question, how are you feeling about the N64 emulator performance, the games that we see brought over and how they run, and the feature set that comes along with them? Are you happy or not happy with it? I definitely think that we are in a better place with online play with these classic titles, and that it's cool to see enhancements like this done. But regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.